focus, discipline. This is the Zero Excuses Podcast. Each and every week, we talk to high-performing, inspirational athletes, entrepreneurs, and leaders. We ask powerful questions to extract their tools, strategies, and life lessons for you to crush your excuses, to break out of your comfort zone, and accomplish your ambitious dreams and goals. Here's your host, Kenyon Zitska.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. We've got an awesome guest lined up for you guys. He's actually a repeat guest on the show. We have Aaron Walker from View from the Top and the Iron Sharpens Iron mastermind community joining us. Aaron has quite a backstory, as you'll hear in today's interview. And also, if you go back into the archives and listen to our first interview, he goes into much greater depth of that story. He touches on that again today, in case you're not familiar with Aaron. But in today's episode, we catch up with Aaron, see what he's been up to over the past year, extract some of the knowledge that he's gained over the past year, and share that with you guys today. And as true with most episodes here at Zero Excuses, you definitely want to grab a pen and paper. Aaron drops a ton of knowledge, ton of resources, so you don't want to miss any of those. I'll try and drop most of those into the show notes here today. But before we get into the conversation with Aaron, just got a couple quick reminders for you guys. If you haven't already done so, would appreciate it if you take a couple minutes of your time to head over to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and leave us a review over there. You can just go to kenyonzitska.com/iTunes, take you right to the page. Real super simple, and appreciate everyone who has done so already. Secondly, if you are looking to take these tools and these resources and are looking for some accountability in applying these tactics and strategies and tools into your life so that you can eliminate your excuses and build that discipline that you've been looking for to get the results that you want, encourage you to apply to be a part of our Infinite Results Mastermind community. Right now, it's a small, tight-knit group of gentlemen who get together once a week, and we work on implementing habits and routines and strategies into our day-to-day lives so that we can live life on our terms intentionally. So if you're interested in that, you can go to kenyonzitska.com/results to fill out the application. You'll get a chance to speak with me one-on-one for a short period of time. And if you're a good match, we'll get you going. Secondly, if you would like to work with me one-on-one and really customize a solution to build discipline and have that ultimate amount of accountability in your life to reach those ultimate goals that you want. I've got some big goals here in 2019, and I understand the importance of how much having that outside view, that third-party view, looking down over you to see your blind spots is in accomplishing those big goals that you have. So if you would like to work with me one-on-one, make those lofty goals a reality, you can apply to be a part of that program at kenyonzitska.com/discipline. Again, you'll get a chance to talk with me for at least 1 hour, one-on-one. Can go over some simple strategies you can implement right away and see if you're a good fit to work with me one-on-one. Again, it's not for everyone. It requires a significant amount of time, energy, and resources invested into this process. So if that sounds like you, again, you can go to kenyonzitska.com/discipline to apply to that. All right. Enough on all that. Let's get into today's conversation with Aaron Walker. Aaron Walker, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us here on the Zero Excuses podcast today.
Kenyon, it's all my pleasure, man. What a delight it always is to be on your show.
Yeah, this is round 2 for us, and I've always gone back and listened to our conversation. I always listen to pretty much all my interviews, but yours definitely sticks out as one of my favorites. And when you reached out to me to connect again, didn't even hesitate to have you on. So I'll definitely drop a link for those who want to go back and listen to it. So you don't have any excuse not to find it, and you can connect at that link there. But Aaron, why don't you give us a quick introduction? I know you got a lot going on, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm a native Nashvillian, Nashville, Tennessee. I've been here 58 years now, seen some massive growth and change over the past 6 decades. I think about that now. Nashville was a little bitty town. I knew all the people that ran it at one time. And now, of course, it's such a metropolitan city, but that's been fun going through that. We're 40 years as an entrepreneur this year, so that's pretty exciting. That's a milestone for us. We've had 12 businesses, and as we look back over those, it's been a fun journey. Married 39 years to Robin. We have 2 daughters, Brooke and Holly. They're 35 and 31. Then we have 5 grandchildren from 3 years old to 16. So it's a lot of fun here in Nashville. I get to coach men every day. We have 14 mastermind groups that we facilitate, and we're in about 8 different countries now, representation there from guys from 8 different countries. And we're helping ordinary men become extraordinary in all they do, Kenyon.
Right on. So what has been, we talked a lot about some of the nuts and bolts last time you were on. What has changed for you between last year and this year? What have you learned along the way to, change things for you? And what have been some things that you've implemented to grow your business to 14 mastermind groups? That's amazing.
We do 2 live events here in Nashville every year. And this past year, we had Jesse Cole come as one of our keynote speakers. He owns Savannah Bananas.
Oh, yeah.
And he bought a minor league baseball team that was floundering. And now they're sold out 3 years in advance, 5,000 seats. And there's a multi-thousand person waiting list to get in. And he did that through customer service, and he makes it an experience. And it's amazing. If you've never been, you need to check out Jesse Cole at Savannah Bananas. And he was talking about at the live event how we really miss it with the customer service level. We get the people in, and then we kind of forget them, and all we focus on is getting more people in. And he's really focused on the people that he's got. And so the clients that he's there, he wants to give a great service to. So we really reoriented our focus to focus on the people that are within our organization already. In this past year, we even developed a course that new members can take, and it helps them understand every process of the mastermind experience so they're better prepared once they get on. Also, this year, started co-authoring a book with Seth Bueckley. He's the author of Ambition, and it's titled, Where's My Mentor? Kenyon, a lot of guys today don't have mentors like I was so privileged to have over the course of my career. And so we're going to help people understand how they can have mentors in their life as well. The other thing that we've really experienced this past year is that for the majority of men, we're running up against the same obstacles. We need great clarity, which a lot of guys don't have. We need to create boundaries in our life, which most people don't have at all. They need to understand that isolation is the enemy to excellence. If you really want to take your life to the next level, you've got to surround yourself with community. And then the bottom line is you've got to have a lot of determination, grit, and perseverance to stay the course. And so those are the things that we really focused on in 2018.
Right on. Well, I love the mentorship part that you mentioned there. That's something that's near and dear to my heart. Being a military veteran, soon to be retired, and masterminds are a big part of my life these days. I not only run one, but I'm a member of several. And
tell us about those a little bit. Tell us about your mastermind a little bit more, man. I always love to learn from other guys that have masterminds.
Well, I appreciate you asking. It's Infinite Results Mastermind. Folks have heard me mention it before here, but it's a small, tight-knit group of guys where we just implement the systems and the routines and strategies around eliminating excuses and building discipline within our lives. I think that I see a lot. The big problem that I see is people are kind of just meandering through life, and they're not attacking their goals with being systematic about it. And
right.
I think that's one thing that I struggle with, going from active duty military to reserve and having a civilian life, is that I wasn't able to carry those systems and those routines and those habits and quite frankly, the discipline that I learned in the military and applying it to my everyday life as a civilian. So over the past few years, I've been able to do that, and I help facilitate other men to be able to do that. Maybe they don't have the military background that I do, or the project management. I'm also an engineer, so I have a variety of experiences that I try to mentor other men and build build not only like these, you see a lot of people with these cookie cutter systems that they have.
Right.
I help them tailor their own solutions, because I think if someone tries to implement the exact same strategies that I have, I'm kind of setting them up for failure. So we kind of tweak things and also allow them the flexibility to create their own solutions. Because if you create your own solution, you're going to have your built-in buy-in that solution is going to work for you. So that's kind of my mission. I like
Kenyon, have a couple of resources just to add to what you're saying. Have you read the book The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg?
No, it's definitely on my reading list, though.
Yeah, the people that are listening now to this interview, you need to jump out there and grab a copy of that. That book really helps you understand how to break bad habits and implement new ones. And he gives some great strategies that's really helped me. I've suggested that book to a lot of folks. Another thing that would really be beneficial to guys is the 12-week year by Brian Moran. And that's a strategy that we implemented a couple of years ago. And as a result of that, we're growing about 35% annually year after year as a result of using that, because you hyper-focus on the task each day, and there's a strategy that he's implemented where you rank yourself every day in the completion of the task. The goal will take care of itself if you'll focus on the task. Procrastination is our biggest enemy by far. We kick the can down the road and we say, hey, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll get to it next week or next quarter. And the truth of the matter is, this system disallows that. You have to focus on the task to the goals that you've established every day. And there's an accountability part to this process, and it disallows you to kick the can down the road. And as a result of that, you get a lot more accomplished. So I just thought I'd mention those two resources that might help your listeners.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the 12-week year as well. And I'm also a big believer in Parkinson's law, the law that states that work expands to fill the time we allow to it. So if we compress the time, it allows us to stay, like you said, hyper-focused, and doesn't allow us to latch onto these shiny objects that may distract us from the task at hand. So yeah, I highly recommend that book, and I'm definitely going to, I've heard The Power of Habit mentioned more than once, so maybe this is a clue for me to go out and pick that book up sooner rather than later.
Kenyon, there's a few other resources that can help your listeners as well that we go through in our mastermind. Our mastermind's called Iron Sharpens Iron.
Yeah.
And one of the resources that we use is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, helping you push through upper limit challenges. Greg McCowan wrote a great book called Essentialism. And in that book, he teaches that we don't need to be an inch deep and a mile wide. We need to be an inch wide and a mile deep. And we really need to be growing through subtraction, not addition. You need to get things out of your life. You need to narrow your focus. And then when you understand the challenges that are ahead of you, or the obstacles like the upper limit challenges, you can get those things out of the way. But you can only do that through community. So we can't do that through isolation. That's why your mastermind is so important, is because we need other guys to edify us, encourage us, that can help push through those upper limit challenges. They can encourage you to do more of a good thing or do less of a bad thing, and they can hold you accountable. And once we understand, we can also accomplish great things by pushing through those upper limit challenges. The community that surrounds us can help take us there. So if you want to really excel to heights you've never been, it's mandatory that you get into community that can help you do that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned essentialism. We've actually had Greg on the show here about a year ago, and again, another epic conversation we've had here. I'll drop a link to not only the book, but link back to our interview that we had with Greg. But I agree with you that we definitely need to stay focused on what we want to accomplish in our lives. And a lot of us, I don't know if you found the same thing, a lot of us tend to start checking boxes that society tells us we should check, and kind of put our dreams and our goals and our aspirations on the back burner in favor of something safe, something that society tells us that we ought to do. How do you help, aside from the resources that you've already mentioned, how do you help men gain that clarity and kind of remove that extraneous stuff?
Well, over the years, since I've been coaching and leading mastermind groups, I have written some resources. One of them is called What Do I Want? Any of these resources also, I'll take the price off of them, and your listeners can go to my website, viewfromthetop.com, download these resources, and I think they'll be very beneficial for them. One of them is called What Do I Want? And we live our lives reactively, not proactively. Mm-hmm. And this resource can help you understand. Let me give you an example, Kenyon, and you don't have to answer this question today, but one of the questions in the document says, if you were not constrained in any way regarding finances or geographically speaking, what would you do with your life tomorrow? And most people never thought about that. They're like, man, I'm too busy grinding out every day just to get the money to pay for the things that I probably shouldn't have bought to begin with. Yeah. And they're living their life reactively. They're just trying to make the payments. They're just trying to survive. And what's sad about that is life kind of slips by us and we don't enjoy the journey. We are looking at this destination. We're looking at the summit, the pinnacle, and we're saying, if I can ever get there, but they haven't identified what the pinnacle is. They don't even know what the summit in their life is. So if you don't identify that, how do you know when you've won? And so we just teach people to live a very proactive life. Robin and I sit in our sunroom year after year, and we say, what do we want to give to? How can we help? How much money do we want to make? What are the trips we want to take? How can we leave a great legacy? How can we pour back into the community? It's very intentional, because if you don't do it intentional, it's not going to happen. Just not one day you're going to wake up and go, I think I'm going to do all these things. It won't happen. And so you've got to plan very deliberately. There's another one that I wrote called Personal Assessment. And in that, we talk about your ideals, the things that are really important to you. We talk about your identity and what your identity is tied to. A lot of people's identity is tied to their title or their possessions. Then when you lose one of those, you lose your identity. Mm-hmm. So I teach you not to tie your identity to those things. It talks about your career and your faith and your family. It talks about relationships, which I think is the number one asset you could possibly have, are relationships.
Right.
Then there's a spouse survey, things that you can really take your life to the next level with your spouse. And Steps to a Productive Day is a resource I'll give you also, that you can plan each day very intentional. It's kind of a to-do list on steroids. It helps you unpack your day. I think it's all about being prepared. I think it's about thinking through the life you want to live, Kenyon. And if people will do that and live it intentionally, I think they'll accomplish their goals and dreams a lot faster.
Right. It also sounds like, if I'm reading between the lines correctly, that we all have to have some sort of impact or add some sort of value to the world and those around us. And a lot of people don't see it that way. They just go through life checking that box, putting in their 40 hours and just kind of going through the motions. And
doesn't that sound boring?
Yeah, that sounds extremely boring.
It sounds like a waste of your life to me, to live your life like that. Life is an adventure, and it should be lived that way, but it's not going to be an adventure if you don't plan it.
Right. And, we have these preconceived notions that we aren't having this impact unless we put those 40 hours in, unless we do those things that society tells us that we should do. And, we tend to measure things in the time that we spend on a task. And what are some of the measures that you use instead of time to measure your impact and know that you are reaching your goals?
Well, the thing is we're a little different spot in our life now, 40 years being in business this year and dozen businesses behind us. We're really concerned with building iron sharpens iron mastermind groups and creating a legacy. Mm-hmm. And once you get my age, you start thinking, what is my legacy going to be? Because everybody listening, you're creating a legacy. Is it intentional or is it accidental? And I want people one day to look at me, Kenyon, when you come to my funeral one day, I want you to say, hey, man, that guy lived an adventure and my life was different as a result of having known him. Yeah. I want people to say, hey, he impacted generations to come. He wasn't a taker. He was a giver. He was a guy that helped. And that's the kind of legacy that we're wanting to live. What happens as a result of that, you're twice as successful financially and you're a lot more successful significantly. For those that don't know my story, back in August of 2001, I ran over and killed a pedestrian on my way to the office, and it radically transformed my life. I started thinking about how fragile life is. I started thinking, what would have happened had I stepped off a curb in Nashville that day and was hit and killed myself? What would my legacy have been? It would have been poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire by 27 and nobody cares. That's what my legacy would have been. I thought, that's not what I want my legacy to be. I want my legacy to be, hey, that guy impacted me. He encouraged me. He edified me. He gave me these resources. He made these introductions. He helped my life become better as a result of being in his community and under his coaching and in his mastermind and just being his friend. That's the kind of legacy that I want to live. But that is not going to happen accidentally. We've got to intentionally plan. We spend probably 25% of our time giving back. And there's so many ways that you can do that. You can do that financially. You can do that just through encouragement, through edification. We do a lot of forwards for books. We'll do email notifications in regards to encouragement. We'll get on LinkedIn and do referrals and recommendations. I do a lot of videos for people promoting their products or their services, and we do that without people asking us. See, that's the cool part. They get that. It makes twice the impression because they didn't ask for it. Many, many times. Let me give you an example. The other day I went in the bank, and I bank here locally in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and there's this guy named Connor. Connor's been taking care of me for about 6 months, and he bends over backwards to help me. I went in there the other day, and I said, listen, there's 5 different accounts I want to open. I know it's going to be a pain to do that, but can you help me? He said, Mr. Walker, I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got your information. I'll put it all together. I'll do it. I'll call you tomorrow when it's ready. That way you don't have to wait here. You run by, you're here 5 minutes, you'll sign, you'll leave. And I'm like, are you serious? Where have you been all my life? And so I told him thank you, and he's always got a smile on his face. He's always willing to help, and I'm like, this guy's a godsend. Well, I started thinking about that, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something for him. So I got on my video, and I did a 2-minute endorsement and a thank you to Connor. I sent it to the bank regional manager. The regional manager sent it to the vice president. The vice president sent it to the president of the bank. The next day, I get a call from the regional director, the vice president, and the president of the bank, and then another branch manager. Then they called me back the next day, and they said, we're going to use this video in our training, how to train tellers. I went in there the other day, and Connor, you thought I would have given him $1 million because he said, man, you have no idea, Mr. Walker. Thank you so much. It changed everything for him because then he was recognized. My point in doing that was that Connor be recognized. But the natural reciprocity, people want to be nice to me now. They want to thank me. They reach out. I got a nice note from Connor. It was a 2-minute video thanking somebody for doing something good. See, we're quick to jump up and complain, and we'll make phone calls. Find people doing good and find ways to reward them. It'll change you. It'll change something inside of you when you change your mindset and looking for people that are winning and reward them handsomely for doing that.
Yeah. And it's such a very subtle and small shift that we make in our minds. And just last week, my wife got into a small accident. Everyone was okay. And I did something very similar to the insurance gal who was helping me out. And, sent her a quick thank you to her manager. And, I'm sure it had a very similar impact for her. We get caught up in these moments that moments of despair, like, oh man, it was, I don't consider my wife getting into an accident a good thing by any means, but we get caught up into these different situations, these minor inconveniences, and we forget that there's other human beings around us that feel our energy, that feel our emotions, and that they, if we take 2 seconds out of our day to say thank you and take that small extra step, that's going to come back around to us, and like you just mentioned. And I just wanted to share that quick story to kind of back up the point that you just made, Aaron. And if we could just make these small shifts, I think this world will be a whole lot better of a place. quite frankly.
Another resource, I love to read. I read a couple hours every day, and I've been doing that for decades. And Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Yes.
And it helps you understand how to have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And I want to encourage you to check that out. Also, this is a little bit of self-promotion. Go get a copy of my book, View from the Top. You can get it in any bookstore. It's on Amazon. You can get it anywhere, but it's called View from the Top. You can go to my website, viewfromthetop.com, and get it as well. But in that book, I'm very raw and transparent. I tell about stories about how isolation almost really disrupted, my progress. And I talk about bitterness and how to get rid of that in your life, because it really colors everything that you do. It stifles your creativity. And I talk about the people that you're around. Jim Rohn says that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And in my book, I really tell about all the people like Dave Ramsey and Dan Miller and Ken Abraham and Jeff Mosley, those guys that I've been in a mastermind group with for decades now, and how they shaped my life and how they encouraged me and helped me. Guys, you got to get people around you to help take your life to that next level. I mean, God designed us to be in community. He didn't design us to be alone. And man, it's lonely when you're at home by yourself, or you're in that office and you're like, I don't even know what to do. Man, when you can call on trusted advisors, people that you have willingly subjected yourself to the scrutiny of other people, and you can say, hey man, I let the veil down. I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine. I want you guys to help me. Man, they come by the droves to help you, and you lock arms with them. You've got that culture and that chemistry with those guys that you've built that can help take you to that next level. There's so much more you can do when you're in community than you can alone.
Absolutely. And you know what, we have a very similar feelings in the military. You head out to sea for 6 months with 300 of your closest friends, or soon to be friends, and you learn how to break down barriers and solve problems very quickly together. And that that's something that I'm going to miss when I retire from the military, is that camaraderie. But but you're building that amazing mastermind group, right? And that's going to take the place of it. Exactly. That's exactly the idea. So I definitely agree with you on all of that. So there's a lot of people out there who might be listening to this right now, and they might consider themselves, I'm just an introvert. I'm just someone who tends to do things alone. What else would you say to someone who might have that type of mindset to convince them that they maybe need to start growing out of that shell a little bit and step outside that comfort zone? Yeah, first of all, I would read Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, and learn how to push through upper limit challenges. Believe it or not, and most people don't believe this, but I'm really about 52% introverted and 48% extroverted. I'm a forced extrovert because I know that it takes it in order to meet the people that I need to meet. So I just seem to be alone oftentimes, but I know it's not best. And so I force myself to push through that upper limit challenge, to get out, be with people, be in community. I would just say, hey, suck it up. I mean, you got to force yourself to do some things sometimes, and know it's not natural. Listen, when I started doing Facebook Lives, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of those now, the first one I did, I'm like, man, nobody's going to listen to this. Nobody wants to do this. I was on the Station Camp Greenway, and I pulled my phone out. It's been years ago now. I didn't even know how to do the Facebook Live at first, and finally figured it out. I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, I've got a message that I want to share, but I don't know how to start. And I just threw the phone up and I went, hey, it's Big A coming to you live from the Station Camp Greenway. Well, I do 4 of those a week now, and I've been doing those for years, and we've built a huge community around those, and it's a great lead magnet for me to get people into the mastermind group. I got out of my comfort level. See, I pushed myself. I hate to hear myself. I don't ever listen to my interviews. You're talking about you love to listen to your interviews, and I don't listen to them. I've done a lot of podcast interviews. I've listened to 2 out of all the ones, because I don't like to hear the way I sound. I'm country, it's like when I did my first interview with John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, and that's been years ago now. And I laid there on the floor and I listened to it, and I went, Robin, please tell me that's not me. I mean, listen to me.
And she started laughing. It's the way God made me, right? I have a Southern accent. It's just who I am. And so you just got to accept that. Same way with doing these videos. I'm like, they're not polished or anything, but I'm genuine. I'm authentic in them. I try to be transparent. I'm vulnerable in them. And that's what endears people to me. That's what draws people to me, because they say, hey, you're being real. I can identify with that. They'll do the same thing with you guys that are listening to me today. Just be yourself. God uniquely made you who you are. And if you're not you, who's going to be you? And you need to deliver your message to the world. And you're like, I don't have a message. Everybody's got a message. What's ordinary to you is extraordinary to others. And I just want to encourage you that you've got a message to share, and you've got to get over that being the introverted mindset, be the extrovert, push yourself out and meet people and get in community.
Yeah, absolutely. For years I used to say, hey, you got to eliminate your excuses, but I'm quickly realizing that your excuses are always going to be there. And I'm starting to say more and more now that don't eliminate your excuses, just do the opposite of what they're telling you to do. And, I wouldn't be sitting here talking behind the microphone of a podcast if I didn't do that, because I used to always say to myself that I was an introvert, that I wasn't a very good public speaker. And I still don't consider myself a good public speaker, but, I'm getting better day by day, every interview I do. So just encourage.
Well, you've got to practice. You know what I'm saying? I go back and listen to some of the first interviews I did, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish they'd erased that. But it's fear. See, people were like, hey man, if somebody hears that and it's not good, or, if I cough or if I hiccup or if I do something, it's like, you know what? We all cough. It's just, be real. People are starving to death out there today for authenticity. People want to see when you've had struggles and trials and tribulations and tough times, and how you overcame those, how you stepped up with that determination and grit and perseverance, and you pushed through it, and now it's better. A lot of you guys out there right now have courses and things like that you need to release. And you're like, it's not perfect. Keep iterating it to a better level. Just get launched. Put it out there in the world. That's what Jeff Walker says, and Seth Godin, launch. Let's go for it.
So yeah, you just have to launch and get things put out there, because it's never going to be perfect. We're never going to have the 100% solution, and you're going to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get it perfect, trying to search for those final bits and pieces, when if you just simply get over the fear of it being imperfect.
Man, you hit the nail on the head right there, Kenyon. It's fear. People are afraid to fail. And I always tell people, fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure.
Yeah.
Like, let's just do this thing and tweak it as we go. Stop worrying about what people are saying. Listen, Kenyon, they're not talking about you to begin with. I call it the 18, 35, 60 rule. When you're 18, you think everybody's talking about you. When you're 35, you don't care. When you get my age, 60, you find out they weren't talking about you anyway, right? It's not even something that it's on people's radar yet. It's holding us back from living that life of adventure. It's holding us back from launching our products. It's holding us back from every great thing in life because you're afraid. Listen, guys, stop fearing failure. I don't even believe in failure. You either succeed or you learn, right? Just tweak the dials a little bit and reprogram the trajectory that you want to go, and go down that path. Stop worrying about failing.
Absolutely. And, we tend to, I think we would get offended if we really knew how little people were thinking about us too. It's kind of, we want people to think about us, but on the other hand, we often fear what people are thinking about us as well. So,
I wonder why that's so important.
Yeah.
We're slaves to what everybody thinks. And the truth of the matter is, let me tell you how it goes. And you know this as well as I do, Kenyon, even at your own home. Here's how it goes. Hey, did you hear Kenyon didn't do well today? No, I didn't. Well, hey, pass the mashed potatoes. I mean, that's the extent that people are talking about. We're not popular enough for people to sit around their dinner table talking about your successes or failures. First of all, they're too worried about themselves. They're not even interested in what you've got going on to begin with, yet it holds everybody back. Everybody's sitting at home talking about me. No, they're not. They're really not. So get out there today and launch your product, release your book, start your podcast, start that new venture, and live that life of adventure.
Love it, man. And, gosh, I wish I could have at least 50% of the time, if not 100% of the time back that I wasted on getting things perfect and all that anxiety. It just drives one crazy. And talking about anxiety, it's something that I think I tried to quell. Kind of goes along with the fear that we were just talking about. Anxiety is something that a lot of people these days, they tend to try to diminish as much as possible. And the truth is that we all get anxious over things, and anxiety is a good thing. It's programmed in us from our primal caveman days. So, that's something that I've learned to embrace is that anxiety piece, and the things that make us anxious are actually things that are going to help us grow as well.
We were on a cruise not long ago, and we went down through the Panama Canal. And when we got into the canal, they hooked up a cable to the left side of the boat and then to the right side of the boat. And they did that front, midship, and the rear. And they pulled taut the cable on each side, and it held it directly in the center of the canal, because there's only about a foot on each side of the ship before it hit the canal. And they're called mules. They cost $10 million a piece, these contraptions that they hook to the ship. And what they're doing is that they're holding it steady. There's great tension. And without the tension, it would wreck the ship. It's the same way in your life. You need to embrace that tension, because it's going to keep you from going off in the ditch, right? So I tell everybody, embrace that tension and know that it makes you pay attention.
Absolutely, Aaron. Well, we're starting to run a little short on time here, Aaron. I know you've dropped a ton of resources on us. I'm sure you've got many more available at your website. I wanted to leave a few minutes here for you to talk about exactly how people can get in touch with you, access those resources, and maybe get involved with what you've got going on.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, viewfromthetop.com with a V, viewfromthetop.com. is the best place to go. All of our resources are there. Feel free to go and get the ones that I mentioned earlier in the interview, like the personal assessment or the What Do I Want document that can help you. Listen, if they're looking for a mastermind and it's not a good fit, the one you're doing, check us out as well. Listen, we live in a life of abundance. There's plenty of opportunities out there. It's not a scarcity mindset. You just got to find the right fit for you. If you're interested, I'd love to have you submit an application for that. Check out our book, View from the Top. I mentioned it earlier as well. It'll give you a real good overview of what we're doing. Follow me on Facebook. We do these live videos 4 days a week, and we try to drop a few value bombs, as John Lee Dumas calls it, on a regular basis there. And just get involved in our community, and let's see if we can help you live that life that you're wanting to, of great success and significance.
Awesome, Aaron. Well, I loved every minute of our conversation here, and I know people are going to get tremendous value of it. And I also want to say thank you for showing up the way you do in the world. You're definitely a person that I follow pretty closely. I know I don't always comment on your stuff, but I always follow your stuff, and just keep doing what you're doing, and look forward to staying in touch with you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kenyon. We'll see you, buddy. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Zero Excuses Podcast. Join the conversation at kenyonzitska.com in our Facebook group. And don't forget to rate and subscribe to our show. We'll talk to you next week. And always remember, results, not excuses.